everyone. Pastor Sam here for a midweek follow-up to this last Sunday's message. Pastor Mario is still on paternity leave with he and Jordan's new baby son, so that's wonderful for them. But that's why it's just me solo. Sorry, you're stuck with me. This past Sunday, we looked at a name of God, since it was a celebration Sunday where we had baptisms, welcomed new members, did communion, and so we looked at Elohim Mikrav, which means God who is near. And in Exodus 33, we saw that God's nearness, his presence, gives us rest. So we looked at the beauty of rest and the gift of rest. Naturally, when you're talking about rest, Sabbath comes up. And I mentioned Sabbath. I mentioned the Sabbath day that I take every week. That sparked great questions. I've had questions from several of you guys that morning and the following days at Bible study the next day and stuff, asking about Sabbath and some of the practicalities of Sabbath. So in this video, I'm just going to answer some of your questions about Sabbath, about how my wife and I observe it, about what has helped us, and things like that. First, you may have picked up on or noticed that the last several times I've mentioned a Sabbath day of rest for my wife and I, for our family, I've referred to a Saturday as our Sabbath. Wait a minute, I thought Sunday was supposed to be Sabbath. Sunday is the seventh day of the week, which for a lot of people will probably wind up working best as your day of rest. For myself, who's preaching on a Sunday and coordinating a service, worrying about that, working with the worship team, frequently people who I don't see during the week, they want to grab me on a Sunday after church and ask me something or share something, and then I'm checking in with them. So for me, for our house, Sunday is not a restful day. Sunday it's a wonderful day. We look forward to Sunday every single week. I love Sundays, but I'm not rested on a Sunday. I'm pretty spent on a Sunday. And so for us, Sabbath is Saturday. That's a day when we cease working. Sabbath was meant to be the idea of stopping labor. And so for us, that works out to be Saturday. Now, I'm not saying you have to make Saturday your Sabbath. This isn't some legalistic prescription where, we all have to be on the exact same day. That's what it works out for our schedule. If you've got a more traditional Monday to Friday job, Saturday or Sunday will probably wind up working best for your family to be Sabbath. If you're on some sort of a, alternating shift schedule, maybe Sabbath is Friday one week, maybe it's Thursday the next week. It's not this legalistic, it has to be the exact same day every time, and we all have to be on the same day, same schedule. No, the idea is God has given us a day off to rest. So look at your family's schedule and identify which day will that be. But don't make the mistake of saying, well, there is no day that can be. Because what that says is we've overcrowded our schedule. And that leads me to next question that somebody asked. And yeah, honoring Sabbath might mean you have to say no to some stuff. So then that's a matter of personal conviction. Am I willing to say no to some things to honor God's command to observe Sabbath, and to take advantage and to appreciate this rest that he has given me? Now, how do you know what to say no to? That was the follow-up question. Great question. I don't have a perfect answer. Talk about it with your spouse, talk about it with your kids if they're old enough to maybe understand, but identify really what is this thing that you're saying no or yes to going to do for your ability to rest. We were talking with someone about getting together with friends, going to a cookout or a party on a Saturday. And what I said, there was a group of us talking, and what I pointed out was my wife and I have no problem going to a cookout or a party or a gathering of friends or a meal at someone's house on a Sabbath. So Saturday is our Sabbath day. 2 weekends ago, I think there was a dinner, like a chili cookout at somebody's house that afternoon into the evening, and we went to it. Had no problem with that, right? We would not host something on a Saturday for the simple reason that it takes work to host. And it's fun to host. We love having people over. But if we're going to have people over to our house in a week, we have them over on Friday, or we have them over on Sunday after church. we really try and reserve Sabbath for, we don't want to be tired at the end of Sabbath. We want to be re-energized and refreshed. So that is how we approach, a very specific situation. But the reason I tell that story is to illustrate that I don't think there's necessarily a one size fits all for what to say no to. Now, I think there's some stuff that pretty clearly falls into work. I mentioned in the sermon, we tend to swap out working for our job for just other forms of labor, like we're so rest avoidant. But yeah, sometimes you're gonna have to say no to stuff, and that's up to you. And that's up to you and your family to figure out what is going to drain you versus what is going to replenish you and recharge you and rest you up. Some other great questions. This sounds hard. How long did it take you to get in this habit? It took about a year. This is not, I've got good news, bad news, depending on your personality, how you look at it. This is not an easy overnight quick fix. It takes time to build this habit and really get to a point. And when I say a year, I'm talking about a year to go from really not observing the Sabbath all that closely to observing it where now I can point at that day each week and say, man, that really did rest me up. And so because it's stuff like, we'd come up with a plan, and then after 2 or 3 months, we'd realize, hey, we need to tweak this a little bit. This wasn't working and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll take time. Somebody asked, is there anything you do to help prepare for Sabbath? Great question. And I told them what my wife Adeline has brilliantly dubbed Finish It Friday. And so if you look at our weekend is Friday, Saturday, where we're not working. That's our weekend. And so we know that Sabbath is our day of rest, which means that anything that has to get done, there's stuff that has to get done in your life, right? Like the lawn needs to get mowed, groceries need to be purchased, the house needs to be cleaned, the car might need to be worked on or filled with gas or things like that. And so Friday is Finish It Friday. And so if there's stuff that needs to be finished and done in our personal life, well, that is on Friday as we prepare for our Sabbath day of rest. And this goes back to the Old Testament, where you would see that the Israelites, when they gathered the manna and the, why can't I think of what went with the manna? The little birds, the quail. When they gathered that, they would gather twice as much the day before Sabbath. So the day before Sabbath was okay, what work do I need to do to prepare myself for a day of rest tomorrow? And the reason why I think this is important, and the reason why this is something that I really would strongly encourage you to apply, is because, and this was part of taking that year, almost a full year, to get really in the habit of a Sabbath, because when you start making exceptions, before you know it, the whole day has turned into a day of exceptions. So what I mean by that is, okay, on Sabbath, we're gonna go, we're gonna take a picnic, we're gonna go to Mohican, we're gonna hike and eat a picnic, it'll be great, right? And then you wake up Sabbath morning and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot these 1 or 2 things that we needed for the picnic. Well, let me just run to the grocery store really quickly. And then you're like, well, while I'm at the grocery store, we are running low on this, and that, okay. And before you know it, what was gonna be a 10-minute trip has turned into, an hour-long grocery shopping. Then you get home, you gotta put the groceries away. Well, that's okay, it was just the one thing. Oh shoot, we didn't put gas in the car. Let me run out to the gas station. Well, you know what, while I'm driving past the gas station, or like on the way to the gas station, I passed this store and I did need to return that one thing, or I did need to get that one. So let me just quickly run these 1 or 2. And that's what we found happened, is that the longer, or the more willing we were to make one exception, the more willing we were to make 2 exceptions or 3 exceptions, and it just snowballed from there. And so one of the big things for us in honoring the Sabbath and being able to guard the Sabbath is Finish It Friday. And so yeah, there will be work that you have to figure out ahead of time. And then related to that, you're gonna have to learn it's okay if something doesn't get done for 1 more day. I had to learn that. The lawn needs to be mowed. I was gonna do it Friday. We wound up doing all this other stuff because I was trying to finish this project and a pipe broke, and so then I had to finish that. So you know what, man? It's okay if the lawn waits 1 more day. It's okay if vacuuming waits one more day. It's okay. Like, guys, you're fine. Wait one more day. It's not going to kill us. What is going to kill us is overexhaustion. What is going to kill us is a lack of rest. So part of Sabbath is going to have to be us learning it's okay. It's okay to wait one more day on some of this stuff. Now, if you have zero food in the house, yeah, well, maybe turn it into a day of fasting. I don't know. Pray about it as a family, right? But there's some stuff that we're tempted to say, you know what, but I need this. Well, that goes back to finish it Friday. He didn't do the work to prepare for Sabbath. And so it's this really interesting balance and this interesting process of learning how to apply what God has called us to do. Those are some of the questions you all had for me about Sabbath. That's some of my takes on it. If you have any more questions, reach out. Would love to keep conversing about this. This is something I feel very passionately about. I really think you're seeing the absolute damage taken on us all as individuals and then collectively as a people by a lack of rest. And so I will love talking about the Sabbath and helping you figure out, how do I apply Sabbath in my life? So yeah, we always love hearing from you, especially on topics like this. Hope you're having a great week, and we'll see you Sunday. Hey everyone, Pastor Sam here. Thanks for joining us for another midweek Bible study video. If you didn't see the sermon that we were talking about, you can find it here. Or if you're interested in more of these midweek Bible study videos and thoughts as Pastor Mario and I break things down, you can find that here as well. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all our content. Thanks for joining us.